Welcome to Basketbros, everyone. And Mr. Will Vogel will be doing our intros this evening. So bring in our other folks, William.
Thank you, our wonderful producer, Jennifer Lewis. We couldn't do this without her. She's amazing. She's everywhere on Sideline Sports. Go check her out. She's phenomenal, super intelligent, and makes everything awesome. Anyway, on to our guests. First, we have your mom's favorite pundit, your dad's favorite pundit, your pet possum's favorite pundit, and your Uber driver's favorite pundit, Mr. Jacob Christner.
What's going
Hey,
on?
Jacob.
Hey, Jen.
How
What's going
are
on? What's going on? Greatest doggy mommy ever.
She is the greatest doggy mommy ever. I love those dogs. I've met them in person. I love those dogs. Speaking of which, I got bit by a dog a few days ago.
Well,
I hope
you
it wasn't
shouldn't
one of
make a
hers.
dog mad. It
It was
wasn't.
not hers, and I did not make the dog mad.
All right. And who is our other commentator, Will?
He is the crew, the first mate, the second mate, the third mate. He is the builder, the founder, the captain of the South Florida Tribune, Mr. Motor City Mad Mouth Scott Morganroth.
How you doing? Well, you trying to imitate Jay and Denzel because
It's terrible, I know.
Well, no, that's okay. I mean, but I know you're trying to do your best Xerox copy imitator of Denzel, so I'm doing all right.
I will never be good as Denzel.
Just the fact that you said Xerox.
What's that?
Xerox.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you said Xerox.
Well, come on. This is Basketbros, man. This is old time stuff. I use Xerox copies all the time to go out there.
That's actually a compliment. Xerox back in the day was crazy expensive.
Yeah, well,
I've never
was
done
it
this, but I'll take it.
Well, again, you have Basketbros. It's a broadcast here where you're talking about the good old days. Okay, now Xerox was part of the good old days. And I can tell the raspberry iced tea I had really is working now because it caused me to crash for a couple of hours. But it was good, as well as that Detroit Lions went over the Minnesota Vikings.
That was impressive. That was awesome.
Yeah. But anyways, doing all right, Jennifer. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Scott. I'm glad to be back. Thanks, Jay, for letting me take over tonight. I appreciate it. Thus the moniker, because I know Denzel,
Jay,
but we are close.
Jay got better looking.
I mean, he really did. He just needs a little lipstick tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think he feels that way.
Probably not. And I might regret that comment later on.
That's all right, Jennifer. You can get away with those comments during Christmas time. Everybody's so worn out, they really don't care anyways. But
right?
Come the middle of January, you won't get away with them.
That is true.
December, you can get away with a little bit more than those ways.
So, shall we get to our first topic?
So, Jacob, why don't you mention what we talked about first?
Well, we're looking like we're going to Paul Silas.
Yes.
I thought, hold on, Jacob. I actually think Scott was referring to an announcement that Sideline has recently made.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and make that announcement, Mr. Man in Shadows?
Mr. Well, in the shadows, absolutely. I'm just doing it because I'm like on. Who knows what I'm doing? Anyway, but anyway, one of the biggest things that we have is Scott is our new consultant for Sideline Sports.
Yay!
And we are happy to have him.
Congratulations, Scott.
Congratulations,
awesome.
Scott. You deserve it.
Thanks,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Do I not look like witness protection?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the whole idea behind it is my goal is to try to provide not only presence on the podcast, but to be able to not only being a presence on the shows, but provide Sideline with an opportunity to send our written content to us. So we're looking to really bolster the broadcast side and hopefully provide an outlet for you on the written side. And of course, JB, Alice, and I were in touch 3, 4, 5 times a week. So, we felt it was time to, do something like this going into the year. So when I do go away, and I will tell you that, I will be away from the show for like 3 or 4 weeks. Because I'm working on some NFL projects right now. I'm hoping to get approved for the Cowboys and the Jaguars, and of course the Titans and the Jaguars around the 9th or so, and then of course in between the holidays. But I'll be on Pundits Punnet every show except maybe the one that's on the end of the month. So, but we have a lot of ambitious plans with the two companies, and I'll get into them later. So.
And speaking of ambitious, let's go ahead and talk our first topic. Mr. Paul Silas. He was amazing and did a great, he was just epic. Scott, why don't you take the lead on that?
Sure, I'll do that.
I was going to go through his timeline, but you're good.
Well, you don't have to. Well, I've got it all taken care of. Okay. All right. I'll take care of it. Yeah. Paul Silas is a guy I enjoyed watching in the day. Played for the Boston Celtics, was a big part of that. And I don't know how many people realize, but he was LeBron James's first coach in the league is what he was. And I can tell you right now, as I said, he also began as head coach with a 3-year stint with the then San Diego Clippers, starting in 1980. And then, of course, he spent time in your neck of the woods. He was a part of the Charlotte Hornets and the Charlotte Bobcats and New Orleans Hornets. And he took 4 of those teams to the playoffs, winning exactly 400 games of 387 in the regular season. So, he made a big, huge contribution, obviously, to the game. And like I said, according to Magic Johnson, he'll definitely be sorely missed. And then, of course, the son now, Steven Silas, is following in his footsteps as well. So, it's, again, he's one of those types of guys that's been a basketball lifer. And obviously it's appropriate that he's on this show that we're definitely talking about that instead. So, rest in peace, Paul. You were a winner on and off the court. And, even LeBron James went out. He talked about LeBron that he coached him for 2 years. And at 18 years old, he knew about Bill Russell. And obviously this is where he became a point forward. And this is how the game revolutionary changed by being a point forward with such a player. And, to me, he averaged 9.4 points per game and 9.9 rebounds in 16 seasons. Get this, with the St. Louis and Atlanta Hawks, Phoenix, Boston, Denver, and Seattle. And he won 2 titles with the Celtics, coming in his 10th season as a player. So, there's quite it's pretty impressive. It really is what Paul did. And it's a shame, but again, the bottom line is Paul had a great career and his son, Steven Silas, is following in his footsteps. So rest in peace, Paul.
Yeah. And Will, what did you want to add?
Scott hit it on the head. Rest in peace, Paul Silas. Definitely passed down his knowledge to his son, Steven. His son, Steven, has been an assistant with a bunch of teams and now is the head coach of the Rockets. And I bet his dad's very proud of him. He took over the Hornets coaching job. When they fired Dave Cowens, the team was 4-11, and he turned them around. And he made them 22-13. They missed the playoffs. They were 26-24, but they missed the playoffs. But he still turned them around to be over 500. And when he also coached the Hornets in 1999, all the way to their first season in New Orleans, he took the team to the playoffs. Each of the seasons he was the head coach of, which is impressive. Also, when he played for the Supersonics, like Scott said, he was an enforcer.
Right.
But yeah, rest in peace, Paul Silas. You were great on the court, and you were great off the court teaching players how to play. So, yes, the NBA world will definitely miss you.
Yeah, he was a physical ball player is what he was, as was a lot of the people that we discuss on this show about the physicality of what these guys brought to the table. And obviously we'll be alluding to another one later on, but I'll let you guys mention it. But yeah, he was – so what's so good about that era, there was a lot of physicality. Now it's
Oh, I agree with you on the differences between the physicality and now. And that's why the whole GOAT conversation is always very – to me, iffy because the GOAT is, greatest of all time, but the game changes and evolves. So I do think there's different GOATs for different eras.
Right.
Like Bill Russell, GOAT of his time, no question. But then you have the MJ LeBron, but the game has changed so much since MJ actually finally quit. And plus, LeBron gives up on his team, and I don't ever see that MJ would do that. But that's just one girl's take.
I'll say something real quick. I agree 100%, Jennifer. That's how I view things. The 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. I have different goats for each era.
Yeah,
I don't value goats. I could care less about them.
And we talked about it on many shows ago who our favorite player for every era was.
Yeah. And Scott, you said that a couple of times too, where it just, there's different players in each era that have so many attributes. It's really kind of hard, to say. You have the most popular guy of every era, of course, but because now you got Steph Curry, right? So, and he's the GOAT of the 3-point shot.
Yeah.
For now.
Again, I'll reiterate what I just said. The GOAT conversation in practically any sport, particularly basketball, is one that I rarely ever discuss because I watch the game in the area for which this show is built around. And to me, and again, having watched it, I sat at courtside, I went lots of locker rooms as well as post-game interviews and whatever you want to call it. I just struggle with the GOAT in this era because, again, there's no hand checking, the physicality. It's a jump shooting league. So, again, I don't care what show I'm on, Sports Exchange, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Inside the Picton. I am not if you are looking for somebody to talk about a GOAT, you aren't finding them with me because I really don't believe there is one because of the eras that they are. I mean, I could say that about any sport, not only this one.
Right. Now, Jacob, our pundit as being a normally non-pundity. What's going on in your brain, mister? Go ahead and speak.
No. I just, the reason it was non-pundity was just the fact I was getting back inside and just getting back inside from the car and everything. And I had lost everything. I was lost in the screen, so I came back in. But
now we're talking about Paul Silas. So what are your thoughts?
I know. I saw. Okay. No, Paul Silas. There is a term I have for certain players of any kind of sport that I call it. That I call this is, but maybe not this, but, and that's not a bad thing. But it's like maybe he wasn't the overall huge star, but 8 seasons out of 15 he had double doubles. He had one season he averaged 4.5 assists a game, which is tremendous for that time, like the early 70s for that position. He had good hands, good everything, double type, never more about 14 points a game, but it's like he had a couple of 13 to 13s. So
right,
always solid. Then with coaching, never the overall star coach, but he took over in midseason for 3 teams. So the thing was, he was an exceptional teacher. He had a lot of losing seasons, but he taught a lot of young players the game properly. And the biggest thing I look at it is like there's room for things like this. There's room for it's hard to say that now because a lot of sports now are very agent and lawyer oriented. Everybody's looking for the star now. But
right.
There's room for, if you can let it be. There's room for the teacher. There's room for the role. There's room for all this. And he was, it's hard for that now, but he was that type. And he kept 15 years in the league and about 25 as a coach. So that's the best. He had a solid career all around.
He really did.
One thing I should add to what you said, Jacob, is not only was he a good coach turning programs around, but he was a good person where he taught his players lessons of life too. Yeah. And that to me is every bit as important with a player to teach them the lessons of life, because when your playing days are over, that's it. So it's what you take out of it off the court that's important, and that was the effect he had on every player that he was involved in. So just thought
no, and I will say this: to be the greatest of all time, or to be that great superstar player, you have to have the basics, and that's what Paul did. Like nobody excelled at that better than he did. Speaking of basics, shall we go ahead and move on to our next topic, gentlemen? Mr. Not that he was basic at all. What? What?
No, I said I think we shall.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Nate Thurman, the legend of the week. And who's taking the lead on this one, Will or Jacob?
I'll take the lead on the next one. Jacob, you can go ahead.
See, Nate Thurman was one of those. The people don't know it compared to the other time, but the people, when you hear fans go, "Oh, this is the we had plumbers." You know what I'm saying? They had plumbers, they had construction workers, they were playing truckers, they were playing all this. Wilt wasn't that good because he was just jumping over everybody. Then you get a Bill Russell, but then you also get a Nate Thurman. You get a Nate Thurman who was built, and you know what I'm talking about here, Scott. He was built like crazy for the day.
Well, number one, if you really want to get into how he was built, 6'11", he was like Bob Lanier. And anybody that knows anything about Bob Lanier knows that they're both 6'11", and they were physical specimens. And Nate wasn't a bad scorer. I think Lanier was more of the scorer, but the rebounding presence and defense was extremely good. Continue on, Jacob.
Well, you got to remember this. He has a 2020. He has a 2020 season.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He has a 2020 season. He has 11 straight double seasons.
Right.
He has a lot of the thing, and he was 7 foot. He was lanky, but he was built.
Right.
Like he had that shredded look that you see everybody have now.
And he was the first NBA player to record an official quadruple double.
He also the last 2 years of college led his college to the NCAA tournament, which was Bowling Green, not a powerhouse in basketball, in my opinion. And Kareem is quoted in saying that Thurman was the toughest defender he had faced.
Well, sure. Well, you know why, don't you? Here, let me give you some more stats that'll probably back up what you're saying. Number one, the guy's a 7-time All-Star, NBA All-Star for being, and if that isn't good enough, 2-time NBA All-Defensive first team, 3-time NBA All-Defensive second team. So, and by the way, for whatever the heck is worth, his number has been retired by Golden State and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, when you talk about defensive prowess, these are the kinds of things that when you talk about defensive teams, further back up what you said. Again, nobody these days, do they really play defense anymore? Really?
No.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah, they don't play one-on-one. We can say they don't play one-on-one. I mean, they might play like opportunistic zone defense. But as far as one-on-one and Michael Cooper that we remember, the Gary Paytons, we don't see that anymore. No.
So here's my question. Are there a lot of coaches out there that are coaching defensively right now?
Hey, let me throw the stat out here, and then I'll answer your question, Jen.
Okay. And I really don't know the answer to that, and I'm sure I'm not the only person.
Matter. Okay. Well, to answer your question, no, not many of them do, because they've actually gone out there and modified their game to this so-called three-point shooting contest every single day. But when you talk about the statistics of Nate Thurman, keep two of them in mind. You ready? Number one, points, 14,437, 15 points per game. Okay, that isn't bad, right? But here's the kicker, okay? Rebounds, 14,464, 15.0 rebounds per game. When have you ever seen a player where the points and the rebounds are the same total? Points and rebounds. And I think it's pretty much defined. That's my point, okay? That's exactly my point. So I haven't seen anything that balanced out between points and rebounds. And if that isn't good enough, all right, 2,575 assists, 2.7 assists per game for a guy that size. Now, to answer your question, Jennifer, okay, I don't see many coaches actually enforcing defense. I really don't, because, again, this game has evolved into to me, a jump shooting league. And why do you think this league nowadays has to go ahead and throw gimmicks out there like the play-in tournament and things like that? Because you have to try, and then they have load management. Last night, for example, the Nets sat out 7 of their top scorers, although they didn't happen to win. So it just goes to show you that between load management, starting or sitting out, to me, and then a play-in tournament just to keep it interesting. And then they were talking about play-in tournament. They're looking for every way to keep the league relevant, and I don't think it's going to come back until the style that we're talking about week in and
Right.
week actually get people interesting. There's nothing wrong with a close defensive game. God only knows I saw enough of them when I was covering the Pistons for many, many years over at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Every game was close. It was physical. It was tough. And, when they battled hard.
So
Well,
that all leads me to another question. I'm sorry, Jacob, go ahead.
Well, one of the biggest things that we have is, will it come back? No. And I know what you're saying, Scott, but the reason it won't, because they're even teaching this in high schools now. I mean, I was looking at a thing last night from my alma mater school over in Quincy, and they were playing they're an undefeated team right now. They're 7-0. And they were playing a team that was 2-5. 2-5 team was down 17-15 at the half. There's no shot clock, so they were just holding that ball forever.
Okay.
And they were doing their stuff, and they were playing hard, tough defense. But because they didn't have the same scores that Quincy does. And they didn't have that, and then guess what happens? Like, fourth quarter, like a 14-0 run or something, 14-2 run or something, that was it. After all game long was within like 2 to 4 points. And then they went on that run, and it's like, see, high schools are not going to stop doing that because a team last night who played tough doesn't have a lot of the scores, but they played defense. They did all that. It gave up 14-point run in the end of the game and lost. And they lost. And it's like, you have to have scores now. They just made the game like it.
Well, Jacob, do you remember many years ago in the NCAA tournament when DePaul got upset by St. Joe's?
Yep.
And I'm sure. And I'll never forget the time, and this isn't getting off subject, Jen. This is kind of staying on point, and they didn't have a
Oh, I was just about to bring Jacob's off-topic counter up, though.
One.
I'm kidding, Scott. I'm kidding.
No, that's okay, Jennifer. But the reason why they're at that time that St. Joe's beat DePaul, a heavily favored team, is because there was no shot clock and they were killing the clock all game. That's when the NCAA wised up and had a shot clock.
So I do have a follow-up question, and this one I'm going to direct to Will first because I think he'll know where I'm going with this more so than you guys, but then I want y'all's input too. Will, do you think if we played more defensively and if we coached more defensively, Jordan would be a better owner for the Hornets?
I think so, personally, a little bit, because I miss the old days like Scott and Jacob, because I miss the back to the basket centers. I miss the grittiness of fighting for a rebound, tussling in position, scrapping, fighting for a rebound, every loose ball, whatever. Do I think it'll change Jordan's ownership? It's tough to say. Yes, a little bit. No, a little bit. Yes, because he will be more harsh on players and make them work harder. But no, also because he, like we've seen, Jennifer, you and I firsthand, has not produced winners.
Right. And I feel like that's because the game has changed so much.
And
what do you think?
I miss the old style. I agree
Right.
with Scott. I like the shooting, but guess what? I grew up like these two down here, and you, the old style basketball.
Right. Scott, what do you think?
I'll tell you what. Well, you're partially there, but not. Okay. I would say he would be and hear me out. Okay. I'd say he would be a much better owner because he would actually draft a personnel to play in the style that won a lot of titles. And everybody knows that defense wins championship games. So I'm going to say that he would be a much better owner because of past experience with the Bulls. And this is the way he played the game, and he knows it works. Again, it's one thing to teach particular things. To me, it's another, to have them in you, and then you start to draft for things, and then you make sure that the coach and the player are on point. But
players are more lazy these days to defense.
I'm
It's
sorry.
terrible.
Pardon me?
I was saying
He said players
these
are
days-
more lazy these days to
Well,
playing defense.
That's true. They might, but if you bring a coach in there, and I know how coaches operate, Jacob,
Yeah.
and Will, is be lazy. But you ever heard of that thing called the bench? Okay. You're going to sit there, and it's
you
either
need
my
a
way
line
or
of
time.
fire under these players to get them
Well,
moving.
Well, Will, Michael Jordan's not going to become a better owner until he knows he can't beat them anymore. Until he knows he can't beat his players anymore. He has such a high ego. He still thinks he can beat his players even at his age.
But that's because he still can beat his players even at his age.
There's a point to it. There's a point to it when you don't think you can beat that, and you're spending money, you're getting all that. He still has this uber super ridiculous sociopathic competitive side.
And I love it. I love that side. I've got that side.
But it's going to be understood, but it's like one thing Michael Jordan's going to have to do is, if he really wants to do that, can he find super sociopathic, competitive, want to win types, like stuff like that? There's a few of those in football, but there's not a whole lot in basketball.
Right. What's all the more reason, though, Jacob, that if you bring in a coach that goes ahead and preaches defense, you want to. Well, here's what you have in the NFL: there's defensive coordinators and there's offensive coordinators. Okay, it depends what way you want to go. And Michael Jordan has to realize that, again, he knows what it takes to win. Everybody knows defense wins championship. Now, I know he has a big ego, and yes, you guys are right, ultra competitive. But I work with Chuck Daly, okay? Never heard of him? He was pretty good, okay? Yeah, I did. For a lot of years, Coach Daly taught me. There are times that I would go ahead and sit at the dinner table with him before he went in there. I'd pick his brain some things, and I asked him about his defensive. What he tells people is this: the way he got through to his players. I don't think anybody coaches that smart these days anyways, but what Chuck Daly told me was, if they don't do what I tell them to do, I will play with their minutes, and they don't like it. And if you start messing with somebody's minutes and they don't like it, then you do it his way. So his philosophy was, it's my way or the highway. And if these guys are getting paid a lot of money, okay, then they either better adhere to what the coach is telling you to do, or they're going to be a lot more Latrell Sprewells that can't feed their family. But again, I have to tell you, though, I lived around this day in and day out. Another good defensive coach was Doug Collins. There's a lot of coaches out there that were excellent. And I'll tell you, if their players don't adhere to what they're going to do, they're going to be gone, period. No matter
Players Union will chop. Players Union will chop you up now, though. Does it suck? Yes, it does. But if you try to do a lot of the things, playing with minutes, doing all that stuff, don't give them. Yeah, because they've got a lot of that damn power now.
Yeah, but you know what? That's where, Jacob, I do disagree, okay? Let's face it. These guys are getting paid a lot of money. Power or no power, I don't really frankly care, because you know what? You're getting paid to do a job, and you're getting paid to do it well. So, yeah, I understand they have a fair amount of power, but if a coach tells you that he expects you to play a certain way, he's the boss. He's management, your labor. So
I agree with the Coach Daly.
Yeah, I agree too.
I don't know, what would you say? Coach Daly style. I love his style. I agree, Scott. If you're not playing my way, you can go on and get out. It's my way or the highway. I agree everything about that play style. That's how I would coach a team.
I mean, I don't want to sound crazy, but I lived it.
I think and I was actually, before you started saying that, I was thinking the same thing, because at the end of the day, the coach decides who's playing and for how long. And at the end of the day, the coach still holds the majority of the power on playing time and the game planning. That's just me. But
he told me this when we're eating dinner, for God's sakes. I'll never forget the trip I went to Cleveland, and this is just unreal. We're sitting in the lobby. We're sitting before the game. On whether I was at road game, he was very accessible to the media, is what he was.
Right.
Him in those incredibly expensive suits. Okay, this guy's wearing the most unbelievable tie and attire, and I don't even wear a tie. When I get one, I ended up getting, back then I used to have a clip-on tie. I didn't know.
Did you know how to put it on, Scott?
No, well, now Candy takes care of it, but I didn't have her back in the day when I was doing the, and she's laughing in the background about
Candy's a good woman. Hey, Candy. That's my father-in-law, y'all.
Yeah, she laughs about my affinity for ties and how much I hate it.
So honestly, talking defense made me think a little bit about Julius Peppers. So that segues into our next topic. And William, I believe you are going to headline this one, sir.
Yes, and thank you, Jacob, for this topic idea. Legends from other sports who could have played in the NBA. We've done other players in the NBA who could have done other sports. Like, for example, Tim Duncan was a good swimmer. And then you have other guys, Steve Nash, soccer. This one's a really good one, Jacob. Thank you for bringing this one up. I think of 4 people. Antonio Gates played college basketball at Kent State. Tony Gonzalez played college basketball at Cal. Both were in the NFL. Phenomenal tight ends. Bob Gibson. Oh, I don't know. Have you heard of him? Oh, wait. I think we all have. St. Louis Cardinals' great pitcher was a Harlem Globetrotter. And lastly, like Jennifer said, for Jennifer and I's UNC Tar Heels and Carolina Panthers, Julius Peppers played basketball and football at University of Chapel Hill. Those are my 4.
And you know he was not the only Carolina boy to do that, right?
Wait, don't tell me the other one. I'm trying to think who would it be.
Come on.
I wouldn't know. Wait, give me the initials.
AC?
AC Green.
I wouldn't know. It's going to hurt me, I bet.
Algie Crumpler.
Oh, I wouldn't have gotten that one.
Crumpler went to Chapel Hill. I did not know that.
You did not know that?
No, because I knew him as a Falcon.
Yeah. And he also played for the Titans and the Pats.
Whoever wants to go next.
Okay.
I got two. I'll bring up the Julius Peppers thing. He was awesome. But Jack Nicklaus.
Yes.
Jack Nicklaus was an all-around athlete from Ohio State, and he could have been really good at basketball. It was one of his favorite sports out of golf.
And he was built like a football player, too. He was a big dude.
Yeah.
Okay, and Scott?
Well, I got 2 that'll blow all you guys away. You ready? I'm glad you saved me for the end here. I'll take the Barry Bonds that was on steroids. How do you like that? Because he would definitely get in there and bang around and get
yeah,
bang around and get rebounds. And you know what? I'll even take Mark McGuire, and I'll say that not only does he get rebounds, but he goes ahead and picks up those 6 fouls so that you can save your position players and centers from having to do it. So
now what about Sosa? If we're going down that road, what do you think of Sosa?
Oh, I like Sammy. I can't do that to him. I don't know if you guys know this. I have to be nice. So whether you guys know it or not, I work with Sammy from 1987 as a director of director of public relations for the Gastonia Rangers. I like Sammy. That's not going to pick up on my guy. Yes, I realize he had the juice a little bit. But man, we had some good memories. So whether you're right or wrong, if you treat me right, we have some good memories. And I'll give you a mulligan, even though the Hall of Fame won't do it. But if I had to pick 2, I thought about this question all day when you threw it in the suggestions.
Yeah. I'll tell you who did play for a minute, who was a legend in the acting world, Chuck Connors. Chuck Connors for the Boston Celtics, the one who was the rifleman.
Well, here, I'll throw
another one for you.
Well, let me throw this name.
Another 3.
All right, I'll throw John Elway's name into the mix too.
Darn it, Scott!
Russell Wilson. You guys have a very similar thought process. I'm just saying.
That scares me if I have a similar thought process with Will. I'm definitely. I say that because I'm kidding. So don't sit here and give me a private chat here that I really need because I said that it's scary that we have the things. I don't do that. Save
Russell
your
Wilson, John Elway. And here's one, speaking of Jacob Celtics, Danny Ainge was a Blue Jay.
He was a baseball player, though, and then he became basketball.
But John Elway.
Deion Sanders.
Here's another one.
NFL.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah, I think so.
With his height. So with that man's height, Michael Phelps.
Well, why don't you put Cal Ripken in that discussion, too? This guy at least played. I mean, AC Green is the all-time leader in consecutive games in the NBA, but I put anybody with an Ironman. So yeah, Will,
Ooh,
I don't want
I
you
think
going ahead and sending me private.
I said Tony Gonzalez too, Jordan.
yeah,
No,
and then
Another
Jimmy
one.
Graham,
Another
Jimmy
one.
Graham,
Basketball. Tom Selleck.
the Michael
Tony
Jordan
Lucas.
of the NFL, who was also a sprinter, a U.S. Olympic sprinter, and he could with those numbers, I bet he could
No,
play some
you're good,
defense.
Scott. I fully understand. I wouldn't want to be in my mind either. But I
Hey,
have
Tom
unfortunately
Selleck.
stuck in.
I think he played for USC, so Tom Selleck could have done it.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, I do like John Elway. Can I tell you a quick Super Bowl memory, if you don't mind, when I covered in Super Bowl 33?
Sure.
I was
I
the
love
only
John
one.
Elway.
I was the only one in the post media availability when they won it all, and I asked John, because they were fair about letting everybody ask questions there. And I asked him, John, aren't you kind of glad it worked out that Baltimore traded you over to Denver? And he gave me an Elway smiling grin from all the way from Charlotte all the way to Pullman, Washington. Yeah, I really do. And he's kind of glad he stuck it to Robert Irsay.
That is an amazing 30 for 30.
Well, but I remember, though, when I was over at the press conference in downtown Miami and I brought it up, he was happy to hear that question. And I had family members back home in Detroit that heard me ask it with my voice being connected to it. But I just felt in my mind that when you force your way out of a particular place and then you end up going to a place where you have success, and then an athlete appreciates it, nobody on the planet. If you've ever been to a big press conference, Jennifer, you probably have with a lot of recent work. To get a question in, you know what I mean, or two, and you're dealing with all these people, you can appreciate it, Jen. You've been doing it lately.
Yeah.
And then do it on a bigger stage than even that. Athletes
exactly.
certain types of questions.
I'm trying to do what Scott does or did, where he gets to interview anybody he wants. That's my goal one day.
Yeah, well, everybody should have goals, Will.
Should we
okay,
go to
so yeah,
Oh,
you want to
go
go on
ahead.
to the next topic?
Yes, it is our last topic of
All
this
right.
evening.
So we got a little bit of time to spend on this one, gents. All right. So Jacob, you take the lead on this one, my friend. Come on, pundit. Give me some pundit.
Thinking about that, thinking about all that, all I can think about is what they had said, what Paul Pierce actually said he'd heard about this. He could have had over that. But Phil Jackson literally said some records need to stay.
Really?
Some records need to stay. So yeah, the Phil Jackson was the one that actually stopped Kobe. Kobe was that hot that night. And this craziest part is he was also just absolutely smoking Jalen Rose. He was smoking him off, and it was just one of those nights. And it's like, but the thing about Kobe is you have to wonder, could he have done that more? Or could he have done that even more and he just decided, oh, I'm going to have this night and I'll do something else. I'm giving it up. You have to wonder with this just how much better he could have been.
Exactly.
I actually
Go
have
ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I have
No, you're
antithesis of your thought there. I don't know that Kobe actually planned to have that night.
He
I kind of
He's
wonder.
been quoted in saying,
Yeah, like he was probably
he said
feeling
it
so
just
about
happened.
that night anyway, kind of
He's
sluggish,
like, it just happened.
and the ball just went his way. Like straight up, that's when I had my best events, when I felt
Yeah,
sluggish or something, and I would just like be kicking butt.
Yeah, but
That's
Jennifer, let me tell you something. Nobody plans on having nights like that where the rim
Exactly.
ever gets wide. And that's that old philosophy that when you get in the zone, you roll with it no matter what. I could see so many players when I watch during even my time regularly as well when I watch it before I stop watching it, that when you are in the zone, you're in the zone. And you know what the most common thing is? Wow, I'm doing this. I'm really doing this. Even sometimes athletes are amazed at themselves that things are going so well on a given night. So here, we're doing this. I mean, and that's what they think when they're actually on the court. Or, you don't see in hockey or nothing. And baseball, you don't. But basketball is the one that you would probably see those types of expressions more so because, again, you shouldn't put the ball in the hole is what they tell you to do. Of course, nowadays we know nobody plays defense. So, but Kobe Bryant, now Jacob, I did not know and thanks for bringing that up. Okay, Phil Jackson is the one that's prevented him from doing it. And I know everybody's referring to Will Chamberlain's 100 game, right?
But I'm just saying, it's like you don't plan on a night like that. It's like you don't plan on a night like that, but at the same time, it's like there are just those superstars. Even if the night's going your way, they still can do a triple-double whenever they want. They can still score whenever they want. They can still do. There's just those that get bored and give themselves a new challenge.
Right.
We've known a few. And it's like they give themselves a new challenge, and it just makes me see, because I love the Mamba mentality of Kobe. And you just got to wonder, would another coach, Adele Harris, for instance, at the same time, under Adele Harris, he probably doesn't have those 81, but say that was hypothetical, you have to wonder if he gets that 100. Because there's no way Adele Harris thinks this idea.
No, but you know who would, though? And I think we talked about it on a previous show. Doug Moe would. Doug Moe, he'd get 150 points. Forget the 100. I mean, I think we talked about, correct my memory, okay? I'm losing it as I approach 60 years old. That's the next time I'll see you guys anyways. I'm 60. But yeah, Doug Moe, we talked about the biggest scoring game ever between Detroit and Denver. Is that right? I'm trying to remember.
No, it is, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, Doug Moe would have done it. Trust me.
Yeah.
So, the thing
put
is,
up a buck 50
Kobe's
on
been
Doug Moe.
quoted in saying it happened. It just happened. Yeah, when the ball goes in, the ball goes in. You're hot. Kobe actually had a previous high of 62 3/4, but didn't play the fourth because it was a blowout anyway, so Phil didn't play him. He also averaged 35.9 points per game that season. He outscored the whole Raptors team that whole second half, like all the players. And also, I've been talking to people in the past, and some people say Kobe should have won MVP that year. I can see why, but also Steve Nash was just so good. So you can go either or on that season. I can definitely see what both parties mean, but yeah, that was probably, I remember watching that on replay a bunch because I was just coming back from Europe in 2006. So, yeah, definitely one of my favorite Kobe memories.
Yeah, when you got a guy like I'm sorry, Jacob. When you have a guy like Jalen Rose out there on a lot of the ESPN programs, he's always going to kick himself around for allowing something like that to happen. But hey, you know what?
It's like that ESPN commercial. That's hilarious. With
exactly. Yeah, that's my point. Well, that's where I was going with it. Thank you. Okay, I'm scary that we're so much alike. Maybe I don't want to have to think I had too much raspberry iced tea to think you and me agree too much. Well, but yeah, but when you have something that's famous that happens to you a lot of times, like Jalen Rose, hey, you can get popularity and ratings when you're the one that it happens against. And that's why he talks about it. And Kobe, hey, I'm the one that allowed 81 points, and I don't mind telling you. But, it is what it is. That was an incredible. And, yeah, Jacob, I didn't know it was Phil Jackson that decided to put the kibosh to it. So that's new for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, we still got a bit of time. But
I was just gonna say I keep my mouth shut on Kobe because he was an amazing player, but I mean he was very vocal about the fact that he did emulate his game after MJ. The press did try to make that to be more of a competition than it really truly was because they were best friends. Look who gave his eulogy, right? So, and they really did respect and appreciate each other. And
it was a brother thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And MJ welcomed the competition to have someone, come in as competitive as he was, because everybody talks about MJ's hyper competitiveness. People call it the Mamba mentality, and because Kobe did, but it's still the hyper competitiveness that's just not necessarily there in the game right now.
No, but you know what, Jennifer, I will say one thing about Kobe Bryant to his credit. Having watched that era, he could have played in either era. Kobe, he was that. He's a guy that
he was definitely that bridge player between those two eras. 100%.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah, I definitely agree, Jen. That Kobe Bryant could easily have played in the era that we all enjoy so much, instead of this one that we're struggling to deal with. He
Yeah.
was that good. He was that competitive, and he was a gym rat, and he was just an unbelievable player. Again, everybody knows that the trade that occurred between the Charlotte Hornets, I believe, at the time,
Mhm.
Yep.
for Vladimir Divac to bring Kobe to LA. I mean, it's hard to believe that Charlotte's connected to a trade in that respect, although Divac wasn't a bad.
Well, and that's what like has me a little sour on Kobe. Not that he didn't want to play here. Fine. You don't want to play here. That's fine. It was the fact that he tried to rewrite history. He didn't want to play here. He demanded that trade. And he tried saying that the Hornets didn't want him. No,
I
the
agree
Hornets
100%,
the Hornet,
Jennifer. Yeah,
yeah,
we know the whole backstory.
absolutely, because you have like the number one draft pick. Why wouldn't the Hornets want him? And that was the story at the time. He adamantly refused. Like, I think there was even a thing when at the draft when he wouldn't even really put on the hat.
Yeah, he
or he
was,
had to be coaxed. He
let
had
me
to be
see,
coaxed
what was he
into putting on the hat.
Well, wasn't George Shinn the owner at the time?
Yeah, he was a POS.
All right, well, there you go. That's why he didn't want to put on the hat.
Well, it wasn't known at the time that he was.
All right, well, everybody knows that George Shinn to me.
Yeah, everybody knows now, but yeah.
Right,
His
George,
attorney died, 2 days ago from the
Who,
rape
George
cases.
Shinn's attorney died?
Bill
I
Deal.
didn't know.
I don't know. All I can tell you, George Shinn to me reminds me of Robert Irsay of the Colts. Those are people you didn't want to play for. And there are times when there are owners, because you're not sure how committed they are to winning and their reputation being what they are, that you may know. We may be opening up another can of worms here, but I think since the clock is favoring us a little bit, that's why I'm kind of mentioning it now that George Shinn and that Kobe Bryant did not want to play for George Shinn. Any more
hold
than
on.
Bo Jackson wanted to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Hugh Culverhouse.
Now that's a story in itself.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm just mentioning owner versus player. I don't want to play for you, and I'm not going to do it.
Same with John Elway. Oh, I don't want to play for a corrupt organization. Yeah, good.
Yeah, well, how did that work out, Will?
2 Super Bowl titles. Amazing.
Yeah, among
5
other
Super
things.
Bowls.
Yeah. 5
I'm looking
appearances.
something up real quick. I'm looking up who was on our staff then, because
I don't even remember.
Oh yeah, like I mean, we still had. I mean, Muggsy was older at the time, but Muggsy was there. Dell was there. I'm going over Vlade's name. Tony Smith. There's some still pretty, stellar players there at that time too, with the Hornets.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think the rape case was until after the draft. I don't think the charges were brought until after the draft.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's amazing, though, since we're talking about Paul Silas on the show, and the Hornets did have some pretty good years when you have a guy like Alonzo Mourning there and Johnson. They had some pretty good teams. They really did. And I had a chance to meet Alonzo Mourning a few years ago, when the Pistons were playing Miami Heat. Just unbelievable because they were honoring him at the time. And, again, it just gets back to the fact that it's not like the Hornets haven't had any good years back when they were formed until they subsequently moved to New Orleans. And now I know they're back. Mm-hmm. But even when the Hornets left for New Orleans, David Stern was so determined to get a team back in Charlotte because he knew that the area, which is a great basketball era in terms of college as well, as he knew that it could do well under the right ownership. That's why I've never seen a commissioner more determined to get basketball in Charlotte as they should have in Seattle with the Supersonics at some point down the road. You would hope that they'll be brought back down the road now that they have a stadium there. So.
Well, in my I loved it when he took the Hornets away from George Shinn.
Yeah.
Because the NBA had to take ownership for a while. And then the Bennett family or Weber family, whatever their names are in New Orleans.
The
Bensons, thank you. Subsequently purchased them. So I was really happy. I was ecstatic when we were allowed to bring the Hornets name back because Bobcats has nothing to do with Charlotte. That was literally.
And Jennifer's seen the clip when I went. Fun fact, I went to on my 18th birthday when the Charlotte Hornets officially came back. I went to that game.
I was there too. Is that when we first met? Or it was that season. It was that season. I know that. I don't remember if we first met that first game or not.
Could be, but there's a little clip on me on the news talking about the Hornets coming back and sounding like a complete buffoon If you want to
Well-
see the clip, I'll put it in the group chat.
Well, when I was actually living in the era, I ended up seeing the expansion draft at that old Charlotte Coliseum.
Oh, I
Mhm.
missed the old
Really
Charlotte Coliseum.
Yeah, I went there. Well, I guess correct me if I'm wrong. You had two different Charlotte Coliseums. The one on Independence, right?
Mhm. Yes.
I saw games there, college
Yep.
basketball games, UNCC, and then I saw the one. Isn't that one other one I'm talking to at the Billy Graham Parkway?
Yeah, of Tyvola. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Like pretty much Tyvola and Billy Graham intersection.
Yep.
But
Right.
it's gone now. It's
Yeah.
a business building.
But I
It's a
ended up
business
seeing the
park.
expansion draft there, and now, of course, I hear you guys have a stadium downtown near the.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's not bad.
Never
Yeah.
been there, but I'm just trying to track the history of basketball in that area.
Yeah, and so
Jen, we need to see a
the
game
Bojangles
together soon.
Coliseum is still open. But
The
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, but
well,
don't they-
honestly, concerts happen there. Charlotte Checkers happen there.
Right.
When CIAA was here, they played a
Yep.
lot of games there. Like, I mean, it's used. It's actively used.
I
Yeah,
actually
it
saw the Michigan Wolverines and the
Jacob.
University of North Carolina play in a first round or second round game there many years ago. I think it was in '87.
Yeah, UNC's playing. Actually, UNC's playing Michigan in the Hornets Arena in like a week from now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no
Basketball.
kidding. Interesting. Okay.
Well, guys, let's start telling everybody where they can find you. Scott, you want to start off on this one?
Sure, Jennifer. Thank you very much. Good working with you tonight. First of all, we have a website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Jennifer posted on the screen at Tribune South on Twitter. More importantly, my pride and joy is the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it. We appreciate it. Of course, you can find me here on Basketbros as well as Pundits Pundit. I will say this about Will because I really appreciate the activity that he has in the chat room. If there's anybody that can light up a conversation in the chat room, we'll definitely.
That's true.
Yeah, hey, listen, just because the guy's not on the show hearing his voice or not doesn't mean he can't be useful in the chat room and crank things up that way. And of course, I'm pleased to work with you, Jennifer, on different shows as well inside the picks. And you'll get back on her eventually one time.
I really will. It's just
you will. And I can't say enough about Jacob. You know, I mean, geez, this guy here goes ahead and reads my mind all the time. In fact, Jacob reminds me of Gilligan's Island, and he's going, "Where did this one come from?"
Yeah, no, I'm the captain. I'm the captain, and I'm whacking up head.
No, I don't mean captain, man. I'll never forget when they took those pills there, reading minds. It seems like Jacob reads my mind a lot of times. Like, wait a minute, that's how
I'm the captain, and I'm knocking on the head like Gilligan.
You know, I don't care. When I had the beard, it was easy for you to do it. Now I get rid of it, so I don't care. My mom would have done it. But no, it's good to be. And now I'm the consultant here for Sideline Sports, working with everybody on your shows and appearing on them as well. And JB Ellis, what can I say about the guy? To me, he's like my baby brother, and you know we're in touch all the time. So glad to be a part of this whole thing.
Okay, and Will, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, kind sir?
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you for all that you've helped with the show. I've known you for many years, and I'm blessed to know you forever. I'm lucky to have you in my life. Jacob and Scott, what more can I say? You guys are definitely like mentors to me, and I always, whenever I hear you guys on shows and other things, I always take inspiration like, oh, that's a great point. Maybe I should jot that down. And you guys just help me become more knowledgeable and influential. Anyway, guys, I'm done ranting. Guys, can find me on the NBA carousel during the season. Starting in January, I'll be covering the Hornets and the Grizzlies. You guys can find me Thursday nights on the Sip Off. And then you guys can find me Sunday nights on Basketbros. Also, you guys can find me as a contributor on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Guys, like Scott said, please go check them out. They are awesome. They work with us in Sideline. Scott and his team over there with all their shows put in a lot of work, and they're just like our shows. And yeah, they're killing the game as well.
And Mr. Pundit's Pundit.
Sunday nights here. And then Monday nights got something I wanted to tell you guys. I've got a new interview show, the Pundit Views, which is going to be which I'm working on soon. I'll be interviewing. I'll interview people from Sideline. I'm also going to interview other people. I've got my first guest already. So got that type of deal. Got that going, and I'm getting it there. Plus I still have a plan for. Megan Price's NBA Carousel. Tuesday nights, confidential during the season. No more 11 o'clocks, thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah. Wednesday nights, doubleheader, the Pundits, my show, and on Sports Exchange. Thursday nights with TJ Sanson away from the Sideline Sports, Yin and Yang. And then Friday nights, when I'm invited, the Gauntlet. So I'm a guest usually.
Awesome. Well, guys,
did you guys
thank
see
you so
Friday's
much
Gauntlet?
Nope. Not the
Sorry to
same.
interrupt. Did you guys hear who appeared
guys,
on
thank you
Friday's
so much
Gauntlet?
for tonight. It was a great show, some lively debate, and I will see you guys again soon.
Hey,
Thank
Jen,
you.
why don't you let everybody know the shows that you're involved with? I think we're just as interested
Just
in
one or two. I'm
one.
on, obviously, I share producing duties on Basketbros with Mr. Denzel Snipes on Sunday nights. I also, on Monday nights, am Megan Price's NBA Carousel in the season starting in January. Then on Tuesday nights, we have with my girl Candy, Carrie, and Megan, 3 chicks in salsa and 3 chicks in a pod. This week it's going to be chicks in salsa. And then, and that's 7:30 on, I don't know what night we're doing confidential this year. I think Wednesday nights. We have this Wednesday night before Pundit's Pundit, which I'm a part of. Thursday nights, Alex Lemine's NFL Carousel, as well as when not being spread thinner than paper, Inside the Pigskin with Scott over there. And Friday and Saturday, I'm free, and those are my days, and don't talk to me on those days.
Except for me.
Why not? Come on.
Well, you ignore my calls now, Jacob. We're going to discuss that later.
Tell us how you really feel, Jennifer.
I know, right? I need a little downtime,
We'll
guys.
see you guys in 7 days for our Christmas show.
Yes.
Well, not me, but I'll be on the road. But
Merry
Christmas.
It's all right. We'll call you and harass you, Scott.
Oh, that's okay.